It is Tuesday, May 13th at 6:25. We'll call the parking committee to order, please. This is Patrick McCoy. I'm sitting in for Sheila Vaccaro, joined by Lisa Dorsey and Bernie Flynn. Next, we have announcements. Are there any announcements? Okay. Any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports, starting with the garage maintenance report.
Good evening. I'm Chris Hankins with Colonial Parking. The financial performance of the garages for April were as follows. The total revenue in April was $248,562, which is significantly higher than budget and a good deal ahead of last year as well. And the reason for that is related to the timing of payments. We have a couple groups that paid multiple months in April. So like Hotel Indigo paid 2 months in April. The County of Chester had a couple payments that hit in April. So really big groups catching up lifted the revenue to cause that variance. On the detail, if you look at that, you'll see year to date, it kind of lines up with both the budget and the prior year, a little bit ahead though. Operating expenses for April were $49,066 for a net operating income of $199,496. And year to date, as I just mentioned, we're a little bit ahead of budget and a little bit ahead of last year as well. The number of monthly parkers in April, the total was 979 parkers. We've talked about this past couple months. We've onboarded everybody, so that's kind of leveled off at the number you see here in April. But it is up from March's number of 919 parkers, and that increase represents a large group. I think Chester County came into the fold and we got all their parkers into the system, and that accounts for the bulk of that increase from March to April. And then average transient revenue per day, you'll see there at $3,780 versus March, which was a little bit higher at $3,920 and ahead of April of last year. And you'll see that the average tickets per day kind of reflect the revenue as in the same fashion as the revenue. Is there any questions about the financial reporting on the garage? No? I will take a note to follow up on an item from last month. We talked about instituting the parameters for the different types of monthly parkers. So you have night parkers who pay for access after 5 p.m. And then you have daytime parkers and 24/7 parkers. So last month we talked about putting the parameters in place for the nighttime parkers, those restrictions. So we went through a process of testing the parameters and then sent an email notification to all the night parkers and then implemented the parameters on those parkers. So now if a night parker comes in at 4:30, their access card won't work. It'll show them a message on the display of the kiosk that your reservation doesn't start till, whatever time, and they'll have to pull a ticket. So those restrictions are in place, and we're looking to work with Ramsey to move on to the daytime parkers and do the same with them, so that essentially folks are using what they're paying for. They're getting the product that they're paying for, and if it doesn't work for them, they should probably look at one of the different products. So that process is underway, and I think it's going well.
That's actually one of the considerations is item B under new business, which is to change that.
So what kind of feedback have you gotten from the nighttime parkers?
There certainly have been folks who we've encountered coming in early or leaving after, the allotted time. And, there's not a lot of pushback because, that's what they selected and they know that they're getting, a particular rate for those particular hours. So it's really just, I think, an awareness campaign and, letting them know, this is what you're paying for and this is what you get. And if you're outside the parameters, you're going to be held up and just need to pull a ticket and deal with it.
So are the parameters the exact hours, or is there, half hour leeway or an hour leeway, either way?
Sure.
Morning and evening?
Sure. So the parameters are set to the specific hours. So in the the instance of the night parkers, it's 5 p.m. is the entry. You need to come in after 5 p.m. But what we've done is we've set up a 15-minute grace period. So if you're a few minutes early, we're not looking to jam you up. But we want you to follow the rules of what you purchased.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the director's report.
Hello. Got a new format, which is actually I stole Sean's old format for the director's report. I couldn't look at the colors that I had picked. So let me see. So for I know I was keeping the parking committee updated on the PennDOT streetery permits, which came to a head. PennDOT has acquiesced and said that we are able to approve as we have in the past because they are still reviewing the permit application internally. So they didn't want to hold up any more businesses. So you may have seen Mercado does have their permit. We did ensure with help from the police department that the Hirta corner, which was in front of their property, it was shortened to 10 feet because that is a one-way alley. And Public Works is going to update. There is signage for the most part that you can only turn in from Market Street. I think we requested one additional sign to be installed on Yorie's side on Church Street. And I was also assured that any garbage pickups, they actually pull the dumpsters out into Market Street so it wouldn't cause any traffic jams with trash trucks. And the platform does stop before Kilwins. So that is, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. McCoy,
Okay.
excuse me. They are within the Mercado's within the bounds that you set.
Mhm.
A unique parking situation has arisen. People are parking motorcycles there now.
In the 10-foot space?
Yeah,
Okay.
can't put a car there,
Yeah.
but there were 3 motorcycles in there.
Okay. Behind it by Kilwins or
Right
by the
in front-
alley?
In front of Kilwins.
Okay.
Yeah, they squeezed 3 motorcycles in there.
You could put a motorcycle there, no?
Yeah, but
Why
you're
not?
you're
They have to
getting
pay for
You're
it.
not getting revenue for it.
Well, then they're going to get a ticket, but you could technically park. I mean,
Just let you know it's there.
okay, that's good to know though, because we can fix the signage
that.
and make it motorcycle parking.
Hey, look at that.
Okay. Okay. And that being said, I think that on the smart growth agenda, we will be talking about the cafe permits and I know that this is kind of open Pandora's box as far as line of sight and concerns of that. So I think that some of the other existing platforms that are out will have some modifications that'll be needed moving into 2026, which is why we're starting that conversation now. We are working on a plan to remove the meters that are on street by July. One, because we have kiosks installed, and 2, meter monitoring costs are going up another 30 cents per meter. So it would be, I think we'd be at $6.60 per meter. So John O'Brien is coordinating as well to help with the businesses, but we did come up with a little postcard that I just approved the proof of that we'll hand out. It has a QR code to download the app. It also has reminds people that they can use pay by text. And on the back, it has the little map that the PAC Public Arts Commission helped us design. So that'll help people find lots, because the other thing that will begin, it's always been in our ordinance, but the central business district, the on-street parking there is technically a 3-hour maximum. And so because there won't be meters that people can, keep extending the time now that it's by license plate, after 3 hours, you will be required to go to a lot or into a garage. So we're going to have to sign the streets appropriately, and notify everyone of that.
Yeah, I did get a phone call about that. You can't, if you're staying longer,
Mhm.
you can't increase your parking. We actually want people to move.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, the intention, my intention, but also what I would assume the original intention of the ordinance was to keep the on-street parking more transient for the ability, not so much for Door Dashers, but for visitors that are popping in for dinner or to pick up food or to stop at stores, to turn over those spaces quickly. It wasn't intended for staff to park in front of their businesses, and I think that will also help with the door dashing, because I think that the more transient we make those spaces and the more available the lots and the garages are, which I do think, I drive by at night and there is a lot of space, especially lot 7. I think that'll help with a lot of the double parking. I hope. My dream. I did want to, we had a couple of requests for the permit petition policy recently. I did read over it. It seems fine. But I think that I wanted to talk to Parking Committee about considering maybe putting a pause on creating any new permit areas, because I would really like for the month of June for us to work on releasing a parking satisfaction and parking understanding survey from residents and businesses to understand the needs and the wants and of the existing parking, and understand, I think we're getting close to the point where we should be considering different permit opportunities here. I know some residents have reached out to me and asked if we can limit the number of parking permits we give. Some say, can we limit them to the rentals, and there's a lot of multifamily dwellings in the borough. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of rental properties that have 4 or 5 cars associated with them. So I think it's a good time to have a discussion and consider if we want to, maybe like the first car is $14, but the second is $25, or do we want to look at, if you're driving a Suburban, does that cost more than a smart car? So I think there's some conversations to be had, and I thought the first step should be a survey. And then we are going to work on getting the homeowner parking permits to auto renew annually, so that way, if you want to put a credit card on file, you won't have to apply over and over again. You'll give us your license and your registration. We'll auto renew it annually in our system, and we'll keep an eye on the tax transfers so that we know if a property is sold, and then we'll just deactivate the permit when people leave, or you can tell us. And that will only apply to the property owners that are on the deed. I know we have a lot of property owners that have like several family members in there, and I think we still have to work out family associations. Any questions?
No questions here. Thank you.
Okay. Finances. Okay. Sean is doing a very good job of helping me update the spreadsheet. So for the month of April, we did 125,341 in parking tickets. Parking meters brought in $188,431. The parking garage revenue is 106,809. And we still have to confirm like how we're netting that, because we also have 97,121 for the net revenue. And we receive directly the flash payments. Those transactions are directly into our bank account. We are now managing all of the ordering of supplies and any invoices associated with the garages, but the monthly parking fees go to Colonial, and then they deduct the management fee and give that to us. So our invoicing. We're still working on like the ACH transfers and all of that. But I do have, you can see by the reporting, I do have full faith that we are doing well there. Any questions?
No questions here.
Oh. Okay.
Ramsey, I'm sorry, I did have one question. I was
Yes.
looking at the March figure for parking garage,
Mhm.
and it says 427, 136,
Yeah,
which seems a significant jump.
I believe that was to recoup some of the changes when we transitioned. There
The
was,
Colonial.
yeah, there was some money held back and then, right? Chris agrees.
Ramsey,
Yes.
the parking garages, the maintenance for the parking garages, has the new vendor pointed out any significant problems that we're having at any of the parking garages that stands out to them?
I don't think we've talked about any significant concerns. I mean, I think the two things that we talk about the most are the elevators, which there's consistently issues with that. So I think at some point we should go out for an RFQ for an elevator maintenance, another elevator maintenance company, just because our costs are very high. I think Otis is great, but it's expensive. And then we also this year one of the goals is to look at the capital planning for the garages, and that would include the elevators. And if we need any upgrades, I think from what I understand, Chestnut Street had one updated or replaced before I started, but I believe that I think they're coming to an end of life considering how much we get called about them. I don't know if you agree.
And we did have a problem with a vendor that sandblasted the handrails,
Right.
and all the sand, the grit got in the
Elevator?
yeah, the elevator shaft. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Grace, read my mind. It's not hard. The elevator shaft, and it's stuck to all the grease. Look at this. This is what happens when you get old, guys. You know? Yeah, and the grease was really coated with the sand.
Okay.
So I hopefully that's not causing the problems that.
I hope not. I do think that one of that elevator was one of the ones that was down for a while that we ended up fixing. So I hope that's not still an issue. And then the other thing that we've been looking at is the fire suppression systems and the fire safety systems, to get them both on one. Bicentennial has a different company and only half of a contract. And then Chestnut Street has like the whole bells and whistles contract. So they've priced out that. So we'll have new contracts that match.
What am I thinking?
Did you want to talk more about the parking survey, or did you cover that?
No, I think
Okay.
what we'll do is Monica and I will work together on trying to have some sort of draft that we can send out or present at the parking committee meeting in June. So if anybody has any questions that they want answered, I would, send them to me or Monica, or me and Monica and I, and we'll add them to the survey.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, old business. Motion to approve the April 2025 Parking Committee meeting minutes. So that will be a 2.
Two.
Moving on to new business. Katie Walker, Executive Director of the Westchester Chamber of Commerce, to discuss the Christmas parade.
Good evening. I'm here again in May to talk about the Christmas parade. I'm just going to kind of get straight to it. We had several conversations at the end of last year about the bill from the borough for services for police and public works that helps to support, the operations of the parade. And we ran into a challenge last year with a bill that was higher than it had been previous years from 22 and 23, where we had that, I guess, special arrangement with the borough for the reduction. And there's been a lot of changes that have happened since then with the rate for the special event parking and the amount that is comes back to the organization to help reduce the cost to the organizations that are running these events. And I know that council's intention with that parking revenue, that $10 fee that was agreed upon last year, is to help support these organizations like the Chamber that are bringing these events to the borough of Westchester. In order for the Chamber to plan accordingly and budget what we need to budget to run an event of this size, and to also continue considering putting the lights up in town and some of the other programming we're doing, I'm here tonight to request consideration from the parking committee for a $20 special event parking fee for the night of the Christmas parade, to be applied to obviously the borough managed garages, and if possible this year or in the future, and how we can work together, maybe even some of the flat lots in town. We would also like to ask that fee, that $20 fee, if that is something that is able to be approved, would possibly start earlier in the evening. Last year, I believe we started charging the flat fee in the garages at 4 p.m. and would hope that we could look at maybe starting earlier in the day, possibly 2 or 3 p.m. for people that are coming in earlier to avoid the rush of the crowds that are coming into town that night. Last year, just for context, the reduction in the bill, our final invoice from the borough was just over $17,000. The parking revenue was about a $1,300 reduction on that bill. So I think it's tough as well to compare apples to apples for other events in town, like maybe the Christmas market that is going on a Saturday and is also taking place from 11 o'clock until 7 o'clock at night. And you have that natural turnover in the garage of people that come in, park, leave, and then other people flow in throughout the day. For the Christmas parade, they're coming in, they're parking, they're not moving, and then they're leaving after a maybe 2.5 hour event between the time that we start shutting the streets down and then when the parade wraps up, usually around like 8:45, 9 o'clock that night. So we didn't really see between the $10, the 50% reduction in that consideration on the invoice, didn't put much of a dent in the bill for us for the Chamber. I'll just add this to my comments, but as each of you know, the Christmas parade is a beloved tradition in Westchester. It draws tens of thousands of spectators to downtown each year. It's a free event for the public, entirely open and accessible to families and residents here in the borough and throughout the region. At the same time, it's an event with significant costs, especially for public safety and operational support. So we receive that bill each year from the borough to cover police and public works services tied to the parade, and completely understandable. We all want this to be a safe and well-managed event, but it does represent now one of the largest expenses that the Chamber shoulders to bring the parade to town. So I think that introducing a $20 event parking rate just for this event, can be other considerations for other events, would provide a small but meaningful way for residents, for attendees who use the borough parking to help offset the cost of the parade. We would consider it premium parking. There's plenty of people that come to the Christmas parade that find parking elsewhere, and we've had people tell us that they'll walk a mile that evening, to come into town. They're not going to come in and use that premium parking right in the borough. The fee would only apply to those choosing to park in the borough, as I just mentioned, and expecting to pay that fee for the evening. The chamber in the last couple years where there were special event parking fees on the garages are very transparent about that information. We have a whole page on our landing page for the Christmas parade, which sees a significant spike in visitors for this event. And we make sure that people are aware when they're coming into town of what to expect if they're going to be parking in those borough parking garages. So our ultimate goal is to preserve and sustain the Christmas parade as a signature celebration for Westchester, one that supports local businesses and brings positive attention to our town and builds a community spirit during the holiday season. So with your support of a $20 parking fee, we can, as the Chamber of Commerce, continue to host this event for Westchester.
Thoughts?
I don't know that I would support increasing the fee. As you know, we went through a lot of
Yep.
thought and analysis of how we arrived at that fee,
Right.
as well as reducing the overall cost for police and public works. So I feel like we've done that work.
Right.
The other thing that we might be able to consider, Ramsey, and I know we've talked about this in the past, is extending that $10 fee to the surface lots for special events as well as to the garages. So there's an opportunity there. But we've already done the work for the
Sure.
10
Yeah,
versus the
I appreciate
$20.
that. Yep.
And I don't see that changing.
Right.
You said that the revenue was around $1,300 as a reduction for parking last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was at $20 or $10?
That was at $10 and that
$10.
was in previous years, and comparing it to the year that it was $20, we were also receiving 100% of that parking revenue.
Okay.
So this past year, it was reduced to 10, but then we also got a 50% reduction in that contribution.
So if we raise it to $20, you'll still roughly get about $1,300.
Right, if the 50% is still in play as well.
Yeah, so it's still the same
Yeah,
number.
and maybe changing the timing on when it's charged would have an impact. Ramsey did help us with some data in terms of cars that were parking in the garages that night. And I was actually somewhat surprised at the low number of parking.
I just know that I went to help Dave and by 4:30, all hands at the garages, like it was 30 minutes of transient parking. So I do think if we consider doing it a little bit earlier, that would change things.
Right.
Do the monthly parkers, do they have to leave or are they allowed to stay?
Just to maybe sell some spaces.
And if you offer reservations, you're offering something of a little more value. So maybe there's an opportunity to do that, to buy a reservation in advance.
That's a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't know how you
That-
operationalize that.
That's a lot of,
Right.
of energy to do it for $1,300.
You have
Yeah,
you have a system that you can use for that?
there's a reservation system. in place, and it
Yeah.
would just be a matter of working with them to set up this particular day, this particular.
Right.
Okay, Ramsey, lot 9, right there on the Swedish word in the borough. No one has permit parking there. That's a transient completely. All right, for the courthouse. So that's one lot. So what other lots do we have that the chamber could secure the lot and collect the fees for that night? Because we don't have the personnel to do it.
So every lot has a kiosk in it. Program them for the special event fee, so it would just be a matter of parking officer driving through and checking that they've paid the service lot. So it actually wouldn't be a tough region because it's a first Friday, we actually have enforcement here. So it wouldn't be that bad, you could just pre-program all of the lots, so there's the Growers Market lot, there's lot 7 at Chestnut. There's the Hannah Ave or Bay Street lot, There is lot 9, and then there's lot 11 on Market Street, and lot 5 next to the church.
So there's quite a few. There's quite a few opportunities there to increase the revenue for parking, which is good. Yeah. Katie, every year, the chamber comes and does 3 months, 6 months worth of dancing
Yes.
and of trying to.
2017, right?
Yeah.
We determined that.
Yeah, that's as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
And I gave Mark Yoder a heart attack when I wanted to charge him $45,000 because
Right.
that was the actual cost.
Right.
The actual cost. And of course, it's gone backwards since then. But but we overkilled it because we were charging for cars,
Right.
you know, the depreciation of the cars and stuff like, we looked at every little speck of revenue, what it would cost. Would you be the borough, we're kind of, I know you're going to do the same dance again tomorrow night.
Right.
Which I won't be here. The other team will be here. Would you have any objections to sitting down with a group of council members, can't be any more than 3, to sit and go over your just the Christmas parade, the profit and loss for the Christmas parade?
Absolutely.
So
Be
we
happy
can
to share
actually
that.
see, we're either doing too little or doing too much,
Mhm.
or maybe your sponsors could pick up the slack a little bit more of what's going on.
Yeah, we're happy to be completely transparent with that information. And I think it actually would be a good exercise for a few council members to really see what goes into planning this event
Okay.
and the cost behind it.
Mayor, would your office be accommodating to hold a meeting with 3 other council people? Thank you. So touch with
Okay.
base with the mayor,
Okay.
and because unfortunately, the other 6 work. I'm retired, so they would have to fit into their schedule, the other 3 people. We could only have 3
Yeah.
because of a
Yeah.
quorum.
And just on the record too, I mean, I know that we started having conversations about this last fall and said that we were going to come back to see how we could brainstorm and work together. So I appreciate, the thoughts behind different ideas to, try to offset, some of the costs for the chamber. I think whichever council members can join us for this meeting that we're going to pull together, I think you'll see that, the margins are small for our organization, and it takes up so much of our staff time. I have 3 staff members, including myself, that run this event. And we're kind of getting to that point where, because we run this event, we can't do other things that would maybe service our membership better, than a Christmas parade. So we have to negotiate down, every expense for the event. And we have other vendors that we work with that do sound systems for us, and, tents and fencing set up. And we're always going to, you talk about the sponsor shouldering the costs. I mean, our sponsors are already giving us as much as they can. And as we all know, with the state of the economy, our sponsorship money is not always guaranteed in terms of what we can raise to cover the cost of it. So I appreciate the 3 of you listening and maybe
With the
figuring out
advent
different
of
ways to
flat
work together.
lots, in my mind, it's $1,300, but that doesn't include any of the flat lots.
Right.
If I'm counted pretty quickly, there are about 5 flat lots that we could actually incorporate into it
Right.
and do it.
Yeah.
And see what the costs are,
Right.
the Ramsey, I know I'm going to step out of line on it, but because people are going not to pay in the flat lot 9, they're not going to pay. So they're just going to come in there and park and leave. They're just not going to pay the kiosk. Okay. What's the ability to split the parking ticket with the chamber, because they'll lose revenue based on the capacity of the parking, just for that one night? Because I know people are going to come in, they're going to park, they're going to run because they're excited, and they're going to get a parking ticket, and the chamber will not get their $10 or $20, whatever it is.
I don't know about splitting ticket revenue, but I do think if that is all agree to that publicize, find a way to man the lots appropriately, to try to avoid that, so that it's not punitive revenue that we're getting and we have a clean number.
Right.
I think like for each lot, I know it's high hopes, but, a lot of people that do come are visitors and they're gonna check signage and they're, the kiosk will be programmed to say it, the app will say it as well, so we can do our best to
Yeah.
sell that.
And we already recruit close to 200 volunteers that evening. So maybe there's a way that we can work together as well.
Just
have
trying to
some
think outside the
volunteers
box
stationed in the
of
lots.
lost revenue
Yeah.
based on people coming in and just, oh, it's dark. Lot 9's dark. Okay. The kiosk is not well lit and they're so excited and they're just going to park and go. And,
Yeah.
and you know what? They're not going to move their cars until after the parade anyway. So the revenue share there wouldn't be as great. And we're talking about increasing revenues for just because, at $10.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we're
what
talking
is the
about
delta?
Say that.
What is the delta? The difference between what you were getting in the old,
Arrangement.
correct?
So in 2022 and in 2023, our bill was around $5,000. And we were receiving 100% of parking revenue, but we were also receiving a 50% reduction in the bill. And I don't know, I think in 20, I actually I don't know in 2022, my mind can't go back that far because I only recall us agreeing to a $20 fee in 2023. And then that changed back to $10 last year.
Started in November, that was the first thing.
Was it 20 or was it 10? Okay.
That was like the first thing it's $20, but it actually wasn't, there was no problem.
Yeah, we didn't, I mean, in the chamber's social media, that's where you're going to see some complaints. We didn't get a single complaint as far as I saw on the $20 fee. But anyway, so yes, the difference. And then last year, the bill was 17,000 less the $1,300 in the parking revenue. Right, but we had a 50% reduction. So it would have been maybe closer to 10. Yeah.
And what's the revenue for the chamber, what's your net profit last
Our
year?
net profit, and I did just send over to Barb this afternoon, our financials, considering staffing costs, which we do factor into all of our event planning, it's around a $14,000 net.
Do you think there's a lot, we're talking about maybe 100 more spaces if we're using all of those lots, surface lots, right? At $10 a pop, and we start earlier, and we have the revenue, the early reservation, right? $15, lock in your space.
Yeah, that alone could get us, where we would be comfortable and be able to budget accordingly. Yep.
I think a lot will come out of the sit down, the
Okay.
round table.
All right, I'll talk to the mayor about that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments or questions on that? Okay. Moving on to item B, consideration of motion to modify monthly parking hours for daily parkers from 6 a.m. to 9, and 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So this is jumping back to what we were saying. So right now, I think it's currently 6 to 9 p.m. So you can get a full day in, go to the gym and have dinner. And we were thinking that maybe if you're spending that much time, you would be more comfortable at the 24/7 rate. So this would be more for the people that are coming into town to work and leaving after a nice, robust work day. So that they asked is if we could change it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. From 9 p.m.
I don't have any questions. Makes sense to me.
Good.
Good. I
To,
feel like you want to say something.
I mean, if I were, working here and wanted to stay downtown to have dinner, I mean, I guess I would go back to the garage and stick in another, as long as it was convenient to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even after 5, isn't there a different rate sometimes? Yeah. Hmm. They do. Is that how they do it? Yes, yes. So it's,
And is there a convenient way to do that?
I think you can just, can you scan out when you leave, like pay the,
Yeah, so it won't let you out or say you're outside your
okay,
reservation.
okay,
And then at that point, usually there's an attendant involved.
okay.
and they resolve it.
Okay, so you would need an attendant. I will say at next month's meeting, we will have more information from Flash on a new opportunity for license plate reader things. That might be a way, I don't know if that software can broach this issue also, but it's like a recognized reading. If you're a Flash member, that it scans your plate and can charge you automatically. So I'm wondering if maybe that
Okay, that would be great. As
that would be
opposed to-
nice, yes. I mean, I do think Flash has a very fully functional system that we're just scratching the surface of. I'm offering things Chris might not be able to.
So adding a credit card for daily parking to a Flash is not.
But it will be, because that is the thing that Corey sent. So that's next month, but there might be a way to bridge that gap, because I hear what you're saying. Like if you stay late, you don't want to have to call somebody and have a,
So-
I mean,
so night parkers, we're doing this, currently with them when they're out. So if they're early, beyond that grace period I talked about, they pull a ticket, and then when they go to leave, and they'll try to scan, but it'll ask them for their ticket, they scan that, and then they pay, whatever the difference is. And then they're on their way. So that's how it's managed currently with the night parkers as of a couple weeks ago.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
okay. So everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Rio.
Maria.
Okay, consideration motion to award bid for garage membrane project to the CPS Construction Group.
This is the rebidding of the garage membrane project. Again, I have to give extra special thanks to Don Edwards, who did all of the work on the bidding and processing of this whole thing. So the memo from him shows all of the bid responses, with CPS being the lowest responsible bidder with a cost of $167,700. The capital budget amount was $285, which was carried over from 2024. And I do believe we had O'Donnell Nacarado sort of advising as well, and they were comfortable with this company and also were comfortable with this response.
So you probably talked about this in previous months during this, the whole design for the membrane. Are we doing this by floor every year, or is this
No.
specific to this?
This is just
Particular
for the
floor.
bicentennial garage, and this is for the upper levels that are being affected by the salt. So it came in very high. I think there were only, I forgot, I think there were 2 bidders. Yeah, there were 2 bidders in the last, and the phasing wasn't clear. So this will allow us with the phasing to keep the garage more functional during the process.
But this isn't a project we'll have to undertake for every floor. It was just the upper
Yep.
floors.
Do we, yeah, it's just for one floor, and it's, what we did, I'm guessing now maybe 3 years ago, was take core samples of the concrete and test it for conductivity, which tells you how much salt is, I've learned all this from Paul, how much salt is gotten into the concrete, and you don't want that because salt is an ion. I didn't do good in chemistry, didn't do well in chemistry in high school, but that makes the rust, the steel rust that holds the concrete together. And so it wasn't the top floor was the saltiest, it was the one right below.
Right.
Because it's not getting washed by the rains. So we do those tests, we figure out where the saltiest concrete is and apply this coating.
So
As needed.
the corrosion didn't get to the point where it's preventing it at this point. We don't have to, we're not putting, $200,000 after bad. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
redo the deck or something in 2 years anyway.
What happens, the salt, the liquid salt comes there and settles in, And the rebar, when they build it, it has a cathodic coating on it, zinc coating. And what happens is that salt gets into the zinc, it starts to eat it. So that's why we got to put a protective coating on it.
Thank you.
Yep. Is everybody good? with
Take
it?
a 3-0.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other business? Okay, seeing none.
I just wanted to say one thing because I didn't say it during announcements, but we are hiring a full-time parking officer. So I just want to put that out there publicly in case anyone wants to come work with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernie, you're retired? You want to?
That's the worst. No way.
All right, we're adjourned at 7:10. Thank you.